Hello and welcome to my easy to understand guide to the NHS blood transplant video featuring Lady Lashur. This video is going to be particularly relevant for you if you are studying AQA GCSE Media Studies, as it currently is a set product on that specification. This video is going to focus on media language and representation. The title Represent appears on the screen, and if you look at this title, it's quite interesting. First of all, it's a sans serif font. It's quite modern and clear, which is eye-catching and bold. But there are bits of the title missing, and that perhaps suggests that something is missing from the blood transplant campaign. The red letters might be there to connote the fact that this is about blood donations and transplants, and the black letters might be there to signify that there are people from certain ethnic groups that are almost missing currently from this particular database of donors. There's a very urban feel about this advert. You get the rooftop setting with the skyline in the background and the use of a lot of urban casual clothing. And this immediately helps to connote the setting, the atmosphere, the tone, but also tries to target a very particular, perhaps younger, more urban audience as well. The clothing style is very casual, and this is perhaps to make her feel very natural, very real. It makes her quite relatable and familiar to an audience. Initially, she has her back to the camera. This creates an element of enigma. It makes it look as though she's staring out to the world, looking perhaps to the future. She directly addresses the camera here and therefore directly addresses the audience. She says, "You could be," and that's a really helpful way of engaging the audience, speaking directly to them. The advert mentions a huge variety of jobs, which makes it quite relatable to people from different backgrounds. In addition, it does mention some aspirational backgrounds as well. So for example, it talks about flying private, it mentions being a singer, and so it creates this kind of aspirational image as well for an audience. The point of view shots here of the boxing with famous British boxer Nicola Adams, it puts us in the scene as well, which makes us as an audience feel very engaged. And the use of these celebrities also helps to engage an audience. It makes it feel like this must be important if famous people are talking in the advert. The sign says "No guts, no glory," and this makes it feel as though audiences must be brave and that somehow they will achieve glory by doing this particular thing. One of the reasons that Black and Asian people within this advert are so positively represented is that obviously the campaign is there to target Black and Asian audiences, and so these positive representations that avoid stereotypes are there to try and draw those audiences in. The coach on the track is yet another famous person, Dawn Hunter. She's a triathlon coach. So yet another person involved in sports, involved in being very successful in her field. The businesswoman at her desk is Mobo founder and CEO, Kanya King. She's dressed in a suit. It makes her feel very smart, wealthy, classy, professional and important. There's a low angle here of a man in a tweed coat, which again makes him seem quite upper class, powerful and important. And this is Aaron Christian. He's a writer, director, producer, comes from an Asian background. We see Doc Brown on stage here. Doc Brown is an actor, comedian, rapper, presenter. So again, presenting a kind of creative and successful representation. The lady with the pink hijab on is a British model called Mariah Idrisi. And again, perhaps showing quite diverse representations of people. We've seen people with afro hair, we've seen people with headscarves on. So kind of including people from different cultural backgrounds here. The dancer we see here is Beth Willits, who has danced in a variety of shows, films and TV programmes. There's a tracking shot around a man in a wheelchair here in front of a stadium, and this is Ade Adepitan, and he is a basketball player, again very successful in his field, and this perhaps challenges traditional representations of disability. We often see people who are disabled in the media being represented as being very kind of weak and dependent on others, or we don't see them represented at all. So including people with disabilities is another way of making sure that these representations are quite diverse and complex. There's more use of inclusive language here where it says "we are the sound of the streets." And this is quite inclusive. It helps to make the audience feel as though they are part of this campaign and part of this group of people. It's very clear that this advert is about targeting British audiences and is part of a British campaign. We get shots here of Big Ben, the Houses of Parliament. There's a British MP, Chaka Amana here. Again, you get him in a suit and the tie, which makes him feel very powerful, perhaps quite traditional representations of masculinity here. However, we do see some representations of gender challenged here, where we see the women in STEM roles, scientists in both headscarves and with braids, so more inclusivity of cultural hairstyles, but showing women within a science background, really kind of perhaps challenging those traditional representations of femininity. There's some group shots here of a choir. It seems like a real community, lots of fun, lots of smiling. It's the London Community Gospel Choir here, and gospel is obviously quite a big part of Black culture. There's a tracking shot through a football tunnel into a stadium where it says "This is Loftus Road" sign. This is a male footballer, Gianni Critchlow, who played for QPR at the time. So again, adding more aspirational role models for audience. Lots of people who are very big in their field, very powerful, very successful. And this will be quite persuasive. Lots of use of celebrities is a persuading factor for many audiences. And this is where the tone of the advert changes. The music slows down and actually goes very quiet, and it cuts to scenes of empty chairs in a hospital waiting room. And this emphasises the seriousness of this situation and the fact that there is a lack of representation, a lack of people within this hospital, and therefore connotes that there's a lack of people who are donating things like blood and organs and who are becoming organ donors. It's important to understand some of the context behind the advert and why they needed to create this campaign. And that is because people from Black and Asian communities are more likely to have rare blood types and more likely to suffer from particular genetic conditions like sickle cell disease, which could require a lot of blood transfusions later in life. And therefore it's important that people from Black and Asian communities have enough blood and organs on offer as people who might need donations. As the statistics suggests, there is only a very small minority of people from Black and Asian communities actually on the register at the moment. And so it's really important for the NHS to encourage people from these communities to continue to donate, to continue to sign up, to ensure that people have access to the blood that they need. The serious, sad faces here add to this emotional feeling and make it feel very reflective, asking audiences to reflect on what is going on and what the impacts could be. There's a simple message here about register and represent, and those kind of repeated use of those R sounds is going to make that a memorable slogan. It even says "Give blood, save a life." So very simplistic wording, easy to understand for audiences, which is important in a lot of adverts. It makes it easy to remember, and it really places the audience in a position whereby if they were to donate blood, then they perhaps might be the hero. The NHS logo here helps to make this advert feel very factual and real, backed by science. So perhaps the overall message is about registering your intent to perhaps donate blood or donate organs, become a donor after your death. But it is also about representing your community, showing Black audiences and Asian audiences that actually they need to represent their culture and represent their kind of communities and show up in order to make a difference, and that they can be heroes. And that was my easy to understand guide to the NHS advert. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for other videos that are going to be relevant for you. And if you have a question or would like a particular video, just leave a little comment below and I'll see what I can do.